Joining me live is Ben Alcott, Director of Damn Good Productions. Ben, shaking it off. Yeah, because you worked on the Taylor Swift show.
Look, Taylor Swift was very exciting for Australia, Sydney and Melbourne. And I think one thing that was unusual for Taylor is that she only did those two markets. So you were seeing a lot of people coming in from Queensland, I had friends flying in from Western Australia. Jetstar had a special sing-along on the Taylor Swift flights and so forth. So, yeah, look, it was a big moment for a lot of people. Did you go?
I did go. It was a great show, and I found the crowd was really well behaved as well.
Look, it's really interesting that you say that because the word is that actually came from Taylor personally and her team, and it's a cute little fact that as you're walking around behind the crash barriers, and they're the big barriers at the front to stop the audience getting onto the stage, they had stuck all along, there were written notes saying, smile, have fun. Her instructions to the security crew were to really treat the audience with kindness. And, we all noticed that as people ran forward to sort of have their photos and whatever else, the security guards sort of let them stay for a little while and then just gently asked them to move back to their seats. So that actually came from Taylor Swift herself.
Incredible. And there was over 624,000 fans in the space of 7 days, record crowds as well, especially for her in Melbourne. I mean, it was just incredible, wasn't it? And I think if people are fans or not, the actual production and her brand is quite remarkable. We've had people on the show from Harvard University, doing courses on Taylor Swift.
I bet they don't bring as big a crowd as she does, though, at their courses. But what I can tell you about her production is that every single thing was bought with her, and that's really unusual for a show that comes to Australia. Because it's such a long way away, normally they get staging locally or they'll get the rigging or whatever else, but every single piece of stage was custom built, and every single, you saw the show, and for those who didn't, she would pop up out of the stage and she would dive in and sort of swim towards the other end of the stage, and a piano popped up at one point. So every single piece of staging was bought on planes and then left again for Singapore on Tuesday.
You've been working in the entertainment industry, directing numerous shows since 1990.
Oh, stop it. All right, I'm feeling a bit old now, yeah. So it's only been 15 years now.
Just a couple of years. So in your very small time that you've been in the industry, Mariah, Carey, Frank Sinatra, to name a few, we've got some vision of some of the shows that you've directed. What is it about Taylor Swift that stands out, in your opinion, compared to, say, Mariah Carey's show?
Look, Mariah's very definitely an A-lister. Taylor is probably the A-lister in the world at the moment. But you were talking in your introduction about Pink as well. I don't know if you saw the Pink show, but what an incredible show that was. I think the thing that this particular vision is from a Mariah Carey concert that I directed in Melbourne at the stadium down there. And I guess Mariah Carey was the biggest selling female artist of all time. I think Taylor Swift is, in all my years, my 34 years, I hate to say it, of being in the industry, I've never seen anything like the audience that was at Taylor Swift. They were lining up for merchandise at 7 in the morning. They were lining up to get into the show. They were just, as soon as the doors opened to the venue, they came racing in, and I couldn't work out why, because all the seats had seat numbers. They just wanted to be sitting there and just be looking at the Taylor Swift stage.
What about smaller venues? We just saw the New South Wales Arts Minister there talking about, changing the laws and increasing venues. We've had certainly...
Thank God.
Yeah. You've worked in a lot of small venues as well.
Yeah, look, I think one of the interesting things is that Australia had a really, really interesting pub music culture in the 80s and the early 90s, and that's where bands like Midnight Oil, In Excess, Mental as Anything, these big famous bands came from. That very definitely has gone away, and I know that they're trying to sort of restart it, and I heard some of the grabs from the Minister before. Part of the challenge, I guess, is with the cost of living crisis, people will always find the money to go and see the artists that they love. So for the older people, not that we are those, but, if ABBA was to announce a tour, I'm pretty sure that they would sell out 10 shows because people want to go and see them. So the problem is that there's only a finite amount of money, and people will take from one part of their finances to pay for the others. Interestingly, with Taylor Swift, we were talking about it the other day, that the people who are buying tickets for Taylor Swift aren't usually the people who pay for other things. So they're not paying a mortgage, they're not paying a rent. They're usually mum and dad are paying for that, but they're finding their own money to buy the tickets for Taylor Swift.
Are you finding post-COVID that people are actually wanting to go out for an experience, perhaps a new audience that didn't go out before prior to COVID?
Well, it's interesting. It's almost like there's pre-COVID people and post-COVID people, and the people that got old enough to go out, you know, they didn't go out for 3 years. So suddenly there's a new audience. But what we are finding is that there is no... We thought the industry had finished during COVID. We're all like, oh, we're all going to go and be Uber drivers and whatever, because no one will ever go out again. And then, you know, you were at Taylor Swift the other night and suddenly you're there with 86,000 people and all having a great time. So the market is back. The thing that is interesting is the festivals are hit quite hard. So Grooving the Moo cancelled. Festivals are really quite expensive to stage because you have to pay multiple headlining acts, you have to pay. And I know certainly I've been 50 Cent's director. Now, I don't know if you know who 50 Cent is.
We've got some vision.
Oh, have we? Okay, lucky. So I've been 50 Cent's director for more than 10 years. And here he is at a concert that we did. And his production, as you can see from this was actually a festival and his production's pretty big. But imagine having 20 people on the bill. Look, I won't tell you how much 50 Cent costs to have at a headline festival, but it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars just for him, plus his production and his people and accommodation and airfares. And I can tell you that, I mean, imagine having to pay 20 or 30 acts. My nephew actually has a music festival. It's called Ability Fest, and it's down in Melbourne, and it's a music festival for all abilities. And you know, trying to get acts for that, it's an expensive thing. So ticket prices are reasonably high, and you have to have a good lineup. If you haven't got a good lineup at the moment, people aren't just saying, I might pop out and go out for the day. They're just not going to spend the money.
Yeah, well, we just had Catherine Alcott on the package there, and she's got, you know, a smaller venue. It's a cabaret show, but it's sold out. So, you know, people like that doing extremely well, local and, of course, internationals too.
Yeah, look, we have a venue. My business owns a venue in Rushcutters Bay here in Sydney. And I have to say that for years, the restrictions from the council and the government have been onerous with noise, and they are loosening up. And I have to say, congratulations to the government for realising to get a nighttime economy. The pendulum swung one way, where King's Cross shut down completely and everything stopped. And it's going back the other way, where they realise it has to be a balance, because trying to do anything with massive noise restrictions is impossible. And, you know, Allianz Stadium was limited to 4 events a year. The government have only just recently increased that to 20 a year. And that was originally because of complaints from neighbours and locals, and they've opened that up. So for us, not so much for the locals, but for us, thank goodness.
What about, we used to see in shopping centres live performances, whether it was cartoon characters or whether it was, you know, somebody launching their new album. Wouldn't that get people back into the shopping centres as opposed to online?
Look, it's really interesting you raise that, because back in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of the viewers watching might remember there was Neighbours appearances and Heartbreak High and Home and Away and shopping centres like Westfield. I'll use them as an example because they're the largest shopping centre owner in Australia. They had a really, really great campaign of school holiday programs, and I remember doing Craig David at Westfield Parramatta, to the point where there was 18,000 people in the centre, and we had to cancel the appearance because people were throwing things at my head because I was in their way. Bardot was the same thing. We did Bardot at Westfield Parramatta, and that had to be cancelled as well because of the crush. Neil Diamond, we did Mariah Carey at Westfield Miranda. So they really they really used to invest in that. My favourite, of course, is we had the contract for 10 years with Warner Brothers, and they did school holiday entertainment every school holidays. You wouldn't know about that, but every school holidays they had shows. The problem is that money has become an issue. So we got called in to pull all the stages out of all the Westfield centres, and they're now used for leasing, there might be a sale on or something. So they've moved away from doing that. But as you say, they need people to come into the centres because that's a hub for the community. And the whole point of these shopping centres in the old days was get everyone into one place. So if you want to get them out, you have to give them a reason to leave home.
Well, there's an idea. Maybe that's something that could happen. There's certainly
Sky
a lot
News
of good
tour.
Some good talent has come out of those
They sure have.
productions. Anyway, Ben Alcott, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jenny.